Have you ever witnessed the destructive power of nature? When water rises, streets turn into rivers, and raging waves sweep away everything in their path. Floods, one of the most terrifying natural disasters, can submerge entire cities in hours. Today, join us as we explore some of the most devastating floods ever recorded and learn how humans have coped with them.
Into the river during record floods in Juneau.
Workers returned from long shifts to a horrifying sight. Their homes, where their lives and memories were held, were now nothing more than flickering shadows in the raging flood. Bricks and pieces of wood floated away as if they had never existed. Luckily, no one was trapped inside, but the pain of seeing their homes disappear in an instant left them numb. At first, no one understood what was happening. Water began to rush into the city at an unnatural pace, so fast that people could only watch in panic. Meteorologists later explained that an avalanche upstream had blocked the river, and when the pressure became too great, the water burst its banks and rushed downstream. No one was injured, but the chaos left a deep mark on the residents. Nature always has its own way of re-establishing order. Sometimes it is the way no one expects. In a heavy rainstorm, a giant tree in Houston collapsed. It didn't come crashing down with a loud crash, but rather leaned slowly, like a giant exhausted by decades of fighting the elements. When it fell, it damaged a nearby house, so let's be careful. Even if it's something simple, nature will make it stronger. Heavy rain swept across the Alps, sending boulders and fallen trees sliding down the mountainside, creating a torrent. For the locals, it was a terrifying event. However, for researchers, it was a precious moment. A natural event they had the opportunity to record and study to better understand how the Earth works. Sitting in front of their windows, people in the English seaside town looked out at the vast ocean. But today, it was not as peaceful as usual. Huge waves crashed against the cliffs. The wind howled through every corner at 130 kilometers per hour. The houses along the coast trembled before the wrath of nature. Some people regretted choosing to live near the sea, but now it was too late to change. As dawn broke over Philadelphia, the city looked like something out of a disaster movie. Downtown streets had turned into rivers, and buildings were barely visible above the water. Residents never expected to see this, especially those living on the ground floors. Now nothing more than a sea of water. Every day, people still quietly passed the bridge without anyone thinking it could disappear in the blink of an eye. A small, gentle stream suddenly became fierce, submerging the bridge into the water. When the people returned the following day, all that was left was a vast void, and the familiar road had been erased. Amidst the quiet streets of Uka, a giant mud dragon swept through the residential area. No one could stop it. No one could avoid it. Instantly, it passed through the streets and houses, leaving behind a chaotic scene as if nature had just painted a challenging picture. To many, the sight of water flowing from the mountaintops into the Hudson Valley is picturesque. However, upon closer inspection, it is the silent tears of Mother Earth. Once peaceful, the water flows down with great force, carrying a massive volume of water, leaving an indelible mark on the hearts of those who witness it. Sydney streets were flooded, but instead of panicking, surfers showed up. They turned every flooded street into their playground. Some might call it crazy, but it was an unforgettable moment for them. In Israel's An Adab National Park, visitors walk along the dry stone steps of a canyon, unaware that they will witness something miraculous minutes later. Rain falls and floodwaters pour in, engulfing the steps before them. The place, which had been dry just moments ago, has become a raging river, a rare sight that few people witness. Winter in Switzerland brings with it a surprise. When a river floods, it carries water and vast chunks of ice. The ice breaks off and flows downstream, covering the river like a natural battlefield. People can only stand and watch, amazed by this beautiful and terrifying sight. On a high street, a group of people stood looking down at the water pouring into lower areas. They knew they were safe, but they also knew that the flood would never stop that easily. Some quickly moved their cars, while others did not yet realize that, in just a few minutes, this street would be underwater too. The Santa Cruz Pier had always been peaceful, but today, the waves suddenly woke it up. The moored boats began to rock violently, the waves crashing so hard that everyone standing nearby had to hold their breath. In that moment, nature reminded people that the ocean can be peaceful but also raging at any time. When Hurricane Ernesto hit Puerto Rico, it brought more than rain and wind. It also brought a terrifying disaster. Rising water levels breached the eastern dam, releasing massive amounts of water into residential areas. When Hurricane Ernesto hit Puerto Rico, it brought more than rain and wind. It also brought a terrifying disaster. Rising water levels breached the eastern dam, releasing massive amounts of water into residential areas. A peaceful morning in a small German town suddenly turned into a nightmare. When they opened their doors, they found the streets had turned into a vast river. No one could leave except those brave enough to enter the rushing water. That day, instead of rushing to work, people could only stand before their windows, watching their world change overnight. In the middle of the arid desert, a miracle happened. A rare heavy rain fell, replenishing a river that had been dry for years. The water rose so quickly that it overflowed onto the road, transforming the seemingly barren area into a rare sight. Villagers rushed out to watch, amazed by the rushing water, an event they might only witness once in their lifetime. When the flash flood hit the mountainous region, it brought water and a considerable amount of tree branches, rotten leaves, and giant rocks. After the water receded, the river looked like a battlefield of natural debris. Looking at what was left, anyone can imagine the devastating power of the recent flood. Nothing can stand against the power of nature. When the floodwaters overwhelmed the Rapidan Dam, a nearby house was swept away before the eyes of the people. A tall building could not stand further away, collapsing into the raging water. The scene served as a reminder that no matter how solidly humans build, nature can wipe everything out in the blink of an eye. NSC residents never imagined that such a sturdy bridge could disappear in seconds. As the floodwaters rose, they swept across the bridge like a razor blade. Witnesses could only exclaim in horror, "Oh my God, the bridge is gone. That was our way home." Now, all that remained was a space amid rushing water. Located on a coastal plain, the area is used to violent storms. However, this time, winds reached 140 kilometers per hour, creating huge waves that crashed ashore. Even sturdy structures could not withstand the ocean's fury. Tourists who had thought booking a hotel room by the sea was a great idea now could only watch the waves crash against their windows, wondering if they should run away. The floodwaters not only swept away homes, but also wiped out roads. A road that was once used by vehicles every day was now a raging river. Witnesses could not believe their eyes. They were driving on the same road yesterday, and today it had disappeared entirely. Everything happened so fast. In a short time, the road that had been intact until recently was now just a deep hole where the floodwaters had washed away the foundation. Curious people flocked to the scene, stunned by the sight before them. Someone said, "Only nature can change things so quickly." And no one can deny that. At Montello Dam in Napa County, water surged and swirled through the spillway gates. A giant whirlpool appeared, more than 70 feet wide. Standing on the shore, one could see the water pouring down like a doorway into another world, mysterious and violent. To control the flood, Dutch pilots raced against time. Tons of rocks were dropped trying to build a makeshift dam. It is a real battle between man and nature, where every second could mean the difference between the survival of thousands of people. Ontario's Grand River is not only flooded, but also facing a massive ice flood. Chunks of ice break off and crash into each other like ships adrift on the frigid ocean. It is a spectacular yet dangerous sight, a reminder of the harshness of winter.
Powerful scene. Huge waves roared against the Pacifica Pier, causing the entire structure to shake before the endless power of the ocean.
Crashing against the shore like an uninvited guest, everything shook under the sheer force of the ocean. Onlookers were both amazed and awed by a moment when nature displayed its greatness. This was no longer a storm, it was nature asserting its power, and humans could only stand by and feel their insignificance.